EEKtober, everybody. We are doing 31 days of scary movies, and today is day 25. I am your host, Melissa Forziat. I'm a keynote speaker, and when I speak, my topic is Take the Doughnut, which is another way to say carpe diem. And that comes from this weird thing that happened in college where I left an actual donut on a table. It became an object lesson for me and what it looks like to leave an opportunity behind. So I don't want to do that anymore. I want to take the donut. Now, from time to time, I'll issue myself a take the donut challenge. If there's something that I want to do, I'll make it official to hold myself accountable for it. But this time, I'm actually opening up this take the donut challenge for anybody who wants to join. So here we are watching 31 days of scary movies. Again, today is day 25, and we are watching A Nightmare on Elm Street. And this one is a 1984 film, slasher film. It's directed and written by Wes Craven, who also did Scream, as you may remember from earlier this EEKtober. This one stars Heather Langenkamp as Nancy, Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger, young Johnny Depp as Glenn, and John Saxon as Lieutenant Thompson. And look, if you like this one, you're in luck. You really are, because there's a Nightmare on Elm Street 2, a 3, a 4, a 5. There's a Freddy's Dead, the final nightmare. There's a Wes Craven's New Nightmare. There's a Freddy versus Jason. And then there's a 2010 remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street. And I think there was also like a TV show about this. You've got so much ahead of you if you've just discovered this film and you want to find more. And having said that, Wes Craven's involvement was, okay, he wrote and directed this one. He has involvement in the third film in this series, and then also Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Robert Englund plays Freddy Krueger in most of the iterations of this, but not in the 2010 remake. So be aware of that if you were planning to make this one a double feature. But yeah, I mean, so much to explore, so little time. Look, just some general notes on this film to get started. I think first, like I once had an opportunity to do an outdoor screening of this film. Actually, this was in recent years. I live in the Los Angeles area, so I found a place that was doing like a rooftop screening of A Nightmare on Elm Street. It was really fun because Freddy Krueger is the kind of villain that people cheer for when he comes on screen. People get really excited about it. And so that was really fun to see with a group. If you ever get that opportunity, I would recommend it. It's a pretty cool thing to experience, even though, no, we probably shouldn't be cheering for Freddy Krueger because he killed kids. That's not good, but he's an iconic villain, and that's what that is. I think it's also worth saying that Heather Langenkamp as Nancy appears in a number of these films, and she too should be a Scream Queen icon, perhaps up there with the likes of Jamie Lee Curtis or Neve Campbell. But I don't know if she's as much a household name amongst people who aren't horror fans. I think they might recognize her face, they might recognize her hair, but are they calling her a Scream Queen? I don't know. I think horror fans certainly would. I would. I think she's just an important figure, but I don't know if she's up at that level in terms of people who aren't really familiar with the genre. So yeah, just a thing to say there. But Robert Englund, he's my Freddy Krueger. That's it. I'm sure he's done lots of other great work. But this is the place he has in my heart. I'm sorry. And I'm sure that that's something that's followed him throughout his career. I think, Robert Englund's and Heather Langenkamp as well. They do their share of conventions still for these films. And I think they've gotten a lot of love for the horror community. And Johnny Depp, really new to the scene for this film. And boy, does he go out in style. My goodness. Ooh, so many things that are iconic about Johnny Depp in this film, including his shirt. I'm sure you've seen the shirt, the midriff. Yeah, so good. I love the fact that this film plays with dreams. I think that dreams are interesting to me. I imagine they're interesting to a lot of people. I think a film like Inception probably leveraged that in a different way. But I think they're inherently an interesting setting for horror movies because things that can't be real become real and you just know it in your dreams. And somehow this movie kind of plays with that, the feelings that we have in dreams, like the things that you shouldn't know but you just know, the places you shouldn't be able to get, to hear from here so quickly, but you can because it's a dream. There are conventions that are dream conventions that are not necessarily taught in schools, but that many of us have experienced, and it gets to be a shorthand they just throw right into these films, and it becomes part of the lexicon of the movie. And I really like that they play with that, because there's stuff here that looks ridiculous, but it also looks dreamlike, and so it works. In another film, maybe it wouldn't work, but that's what this film is doing, and it does it very well. Having said that, it is certainly a 1984 film. You can definitely get the feel that this is a 1984 film. The special effects aren't particularly fancy, but even with that, you're going to get some pretty iconic visuals, some real like screen grab worthy moments, some real still image worthy moments that, if you've never seen this film, chances are you've seen the hand coming up through the bathtub or the tongue coming through the phone. Those are a couple that are just like burned in my brain. And chances are you've run across those, even if you haven't seen the films all the way through. When I was doing the Scream recap, I did that with America Lopez from Big Brother 25. She was so fun. We both went to Brown. I found her after she got out of the Big Brother house, and we got a chance to recap these films. And she's not really too into scary movies, but she watched Scream with me, and I was suggesting to her she might want to check out A Nightmare on Elm Street too, as well, because I think that there is a certain humor, there's a certain self-awareness that also exists in this film that exists in Scream. Something that surprised her, and I didn't realize that this wasn't a known fact to people who aren't really big fans of horror movies, she didn't expect that Freddy Krueger speaks. I said he's got a fair amount of one-liners. He's like, the very thing that like those CSI shows do, where they pull the puns and the one-liners. Freddy Krueger was doing that way before then. He's been doing it a long time. And so Freddy Krueger does in fact have a voice, and that makes him inherently quite different from somebody like a Michael Myers, from somebody like the Friday the 13th franchise does its own things a little differently. Friday the 13th, you get your, which I think is hysterical. But this, you actually get a voice that can call people's names, and he speaks. He goes above and beyond to be everywhere at once. This is a character who's got that supernatural element to him, and there's sort of nothing that's out of bounds for Freddy Krueger. So I don't know, all elements that I like, while putting him in a real body. Well, I don't know how real the body is, but he's got a body. So it's not, for me, where a ghost story wouldn't scare me so much because I can't see it and it's not real. This kind of combines the two things. He's got a physical form, but he has, the ability to shapeshift and walk through things and, appear in other places and teleport and all this other stuff. So it's a pretty amazing villain, all told. Now, okay, let's talk about the scenes in general, because I said enough about the general things that I like about this, but there's some things to explore as we go scene by scene. So first, an interesting thing that they do here is they have a little bit of a cold open. I don't know if it's long enough to call this a cold open, but I'm going to call it a cold open, because before you really get the name of the movie on screen, you're going to watch normal hands, Freddy making his glove, which I always forget this, because you just think like he's so messed up, he's got these knives for hands, but no, he fashioned all of this. He has hands, and he fashioned these weapons for himself. And then you're going to see knives bursting through a sheet. We're probably in the boiler room area. And now we're going to see a blonde girl who we're going to come to know as Tina. She's running down a hallway. Look, she's barefoot. Everybody's barefoot. All the kids are barefoot. They did not need a shoe budget here in this film. It's one way that you can tell some of these things are dreams, although that's not always the case. It's not always consistently held that way, but Tina is barefoot. She's running through a hallway. It's dark. It seems to be raining inside the hallway. There's steam coming out. So this is a really strange setting. But we're going to find out we're in a boiler room area. We don't necessarily, I don't know if you would know that straight away. But we will, by the end of this film, we are very aware of what this location is. So at first, it's just atmospheric and cool. We're going to hear a voice calling to Tina. We're going to see a goat in the hallway, I believe. And then Tina is running through this boiler room away from somebody. We hear Freddie laughing. We're going to see him tear this sheet. Tina runs, but slowly. And I like, it's as wacky as this film is because they use this convention, like people run weirdly. Good news, they don't have to have large locations, large sets to play with here. They can have a little bit of space because people run, but they don't cover a lot of distance. But also, I've had that dream before. I've had those dreams. I used to have them more where I was running from somebody or something, and then I slowed down and I couldn't move anymore, and then I was stuck. And so it's kind of interesting to see that represented here while they're still trying to execute a chase scene. She is going to stand in front of a furnace. This is an important location that we'll come back to again in this film. And we're going to hear that goat sound. And Freddie is going to come up behind her. We're going to get a lot of jump scares of Freddie just coming up behind her, not particularly fast. And yet it's still shocking. And she's going to wake up. So, okay, so all of that was a dream. We've really set the stage starting with a dream. We're going to see her mom checking on her, and her clothes are torn. That's a little weird. And then we're going to get the classic throwaway line, cut your fingernails or stop that kind of dreaming, or one of the two. Okay. Tina is going to grab her crucifix. One of the things that's going to come out a lot in this film, and this is absolutely a trope that a lot of horror movies play with, a lot of movies in general play with, especially when told from the point of view of a bunch of teens, it's that the parents don't understand. The parents just don't get it. A lot of times, even in TV shows, you'll see the parents don't even exist. They don't even pay the actors to come in for more than a minute. And, it's all about really placing you in the minds of these very capable teens. And so this film is about Nancy being the hero, and these kids are trying to find their way out of their own trouble. And so you're going to see that over and over again, the parents don't believe them, the parents gaslight them, the parents aren't effective in solving problems. In fact, the parents created this problem to begin with. What good are they, is what you might be asking yourself. And it's up to the kids to save the world and to save themselves. So you would think that now that we've met Tina, she's going to be this really important character in the film, and she is for the beginning of it. And we perhaps might have seen another Wes Craven film somewhere else in EEKtober where somebody is, you would anticipate they're going to be in the entire movie and they're only in a little bit of it. So that just may happen to Tina here. But we're now going to get, so we've kind of exited this particular dream, but kind of didn't yet. We're going to see this vision of some girls playing with a jump rope, not double dutch, it's just the one, but they're singing Freddie's, it's the nursery rhyme that you hear in children's singing voices. So 1, 2, Freddie's coming for you. 3, 4, better lock your door. 5, 6, grab your crucifix. 7, 8, gotta stay up late. 9, 10, never sleep again. Walk me through this, folks. Why does the crucifix matter? Maybe I need to know, maybe I'm forgetting something about the future films, but what is it about him? Is he actually repelled by a crucifix? Why do we need it? Is it just something that rhymed with 6 and they put it into the nursery rhyme and then they had that iconic, that imagery throughout the movie. Somebody help me with that detail, because that's the piece I'm missing here of this nursery rhyme. But the rest of it, you know, they're basically giving you the layout of how to evade Freddy, but it's not really possible to evade him forever because, okay, better lock your door, great, but gotta stay up late, never sleep again. Can't do that forever. So, okay, we've seen this vision. This is an image that we'll see again later in the film. It's an image that'll come up again in this franchise, but these girls playing jump rope. And now we're going to keep panning past them, and we're going to see most of our main characters. We've got Nancy, we've got Glenn, and we've got Tina. They're pulling up in a car to get to school. Tina's recounting this dream that she had, and it reminded her of that old jump rope song. And Nancy's ears perk up a little bit here because some of the stuff that Tina's saying about her dream sound familiar. And Rod is going to come up. He seems to be Tina's boyfriend. He comes up and he's hitting on Tina. Nancy's trying to reassure her. She's like, it was just a dream. Glenn's like, yeah, it was just a dream. Just remember, just tell yourself it's just a dream. It's all good. We can see Glenn and Nancy are an item. So Glenn and Nancy are going to go to Tina's. The plan is Nancy is going to sleep at Tina's. They're there to support Tina. Glenn's tricking his parents into thinking that he's somewhere else so he can hang out with them. Tina can't shake this image of Freddy. She can't shake the sound of his knives screeching. And Nancy's like, knives, hold on, knives? And so Tina's going to sort of walk her through that. And then they're realizing like Nancy might have dreamed about the same person. She says she dreamed about a guy with a red and green sweater and finger knives. And Glenn perks up at this a little bit as well. So, maybe Glenn actually has had a dream like this, even though he's being a tough guy and not saying it. But Tina had the same dream, so they recognize the same figure from their dreams. They all go to investigate a noise outside. Hey, remember from Scream, you shouldn't do that. Don't go investigate a noise. Rod is out there, actually. He's going to do a tackle jump scare. He's going to tackle Glenn. Glenn kind of wants to, he's supposed to leave. That's the plan. He's supposed to go. That's what Nancy's saying. And Nancy's going to stay over. But instead, Rod says, no. There are no parents here. I'm going to stay and hook up with Tina. And so, all right, fine. They're all going to sleep there. And we're going to cut to nighttime. Tina and Rod are having loud sex. And Glenn is awake, listening to this, not wanting to. Tina and Rod, they finish, they're lying in bed, and Rod reveals that he had the nightmare too. He heard some things about the description of the assailant in the dreams, and it sounded a little too familiar. So, okay, we're now getting a sense that everybody is having the same dreams. We don't know 100% about Glenn, but I get the feeling based on his reaction that he has. Now it's nighttime, and the crucifix over Nancy's bed falls onto her. We're going to slowly, so Tina and Rod are in one room sharing a bed, and we're going to see the camera zooming in towards the window outside their bedroom. And Tina wakes up and she hears sounds on the window, like somebody's throwing rocks at her or something. And we hear Freddy whispering, Tina, sort of whisper taunting. And she is going to go to the window. She sees something hitting it and it cracks through. We're going to go into Nancy's room. We're going to see something poke. I don't know what this type of a ceiling is called when it's a slanted ceiling. When you're like on the top level, but something is poking through it where the crucifix used to be, like a figure with his hands out. And it goes away when she wakes up with the crucifix. She puts it back on the wall. Tina is now barefoot, which makes me think that she might be asleep and dreaming based on what we saw earlier with her in the boiler room. So she's going to go outside. She's going to check on the voice that's calling her name. Not a thing you should do. If she weren't asleep right now, I'd be so mad at Tina. So this is where it gets, I think, cool and interesting in terms of the setting that we're in, because she's in her backyard, but then it's kind of like a long backyard, but then it's kind of an alleyway. And it's kind of like almost an alleyway between houses in a suburban area. Um, it doesn't feel like it should be all of these things. It feels disorienting and it feels familiar at the same time. Like I look at it and I think about different locations around the house where I grew up, but none of them are connected the way this is. But that works for the film, right? Because we're supposed to, it feels familiar, but it feels off. It feels like it's probably a dream. So Tina is walking through, she's walking further, she's walking more into this like area that looks like the back of a row of houses with fences up around it. And then we're going to see a trash lid rolling into the alleyway, and we're going to see Freddy's silhouette. And now Freddy is going to come out, and this is where we all cheer. He's got the longest arms so long that even standing in the middle of this alleyway, he can reach both fences on both sides, and he can scratch down with his nails. And yeah, it's ridiculous. And he's laughing. He's got this creepy laugh, and she's calling for God. He's like, "This is God." So we're getting the one-liners. We've met Freddy. He's gonna run weirdly. Our protagonists, when they run, they're trying to get away from him, and they run they're like, oh, and they're running really slowly because they're trying to get away from him, but it's a dream and they have to be too slow. Freddy, though, why is he running weird like this? He's just like flailing with his arms all, I guess it's not easy to run with long arms like that. All right, fair enough. And he can pop up just about anywhere. He was behind her a second ago. He might be in front of her in the next minute. It's okay. It's like physical space isn't really a thing for him. Okay. He can travel that distance. Not a problem. So running makes it's sort of like, why? If he were really committed, if Freddy Krueger were really committed to killing people, he could do it like this. He just isn't, he doesn't apply himself enough. He doesn't give it the old college try the way he probably should. If he just put in 10% more effort, the body count would be astronomical. And he'd save himself so much trouble. But yet, here we are, and he's just flailing around. So Tina runs, she's in the backyard again. He pops out from behind a tree. Because, he's just playing at this point. And then he just wants to show her how cool he is. He cuts off his own fingers with his knives. It's going to regenerate, but that's fine. So he's going to grab her as she gets to the house, just as she's getting to the door to get back inside. He grabs her and she reaches up. She pulls off his face. She reaches to get his face and he pulls it off and exposes his skull. So now she is fighting Freddy in the dream, but he's got her. And he's in real time, he's fighting her under the sheet, except Rod's in bed too. And it's getting real weird. And she's screaming, and there seems to be a tussle happening. And Rod jumps out of bed, like, what's happening here? He pulls off the sheet and he sees Tina fighting with somebody, but he can't see somebody else that she's fighting with. And she starts to get scratched. Not just one scratch, but like 4 scratches at a time, like claws just tearing at her multiple times. And she's getting all bloody and she's screaming and he can't see anybody that she's fighting with. And then he's going to lift her. So he's basically going to pull her up into the air. She's sort of floating. She's spinning around in the air. And then she slides up the wall and across the ceiling. And she's getting more and more torn and very, very bloody. And Freddy is going to release her finally. And she just sort of falls to a heap and is just soaked in blood. And Rod's freaking out. He's screaming too, because he can't see who's doing this. What's happening here? So he's panicked. And then all of a sudden, everything's just quiet. And I do want to say, look, 1982, I believe, was when Poltergeist came out. And I know from that film, we have a scene of somebody being dragged up a wall and across a ceiling, similar to what we're seeing here. So it's interesting to me that we're getting that image again here. And so I just wanted to reference Poltergeist for a second, because it's, you know, a scene that makes me think of that. And it only came a couple years before this. All right. Nancy and Glenn have been sleeping in this house and they've been hearing nothing but screaming. So they are going to burst in through the door and they're going to find nobody. Well, no Rod, I should say. They see carnage everywhere else. Tina's there all bloody. Rod is gone. The window is open. He has fled. And we've heard him before he left. We heard him say, "Who did this? I'll kill you." But he's gone now. So, of course, we're going to get some police action. Of course, we have to, because there's a really devastating murder here. Lieutenant Thompson, who we're going to find out is Nancy's dad, and Sergeant Parker, they're reviewing the situation. They're going back to the precinct. Parker thinks it was Rod. Everybody's thinking it was Rod. And Lieutenant Thompson is in the precinct looking for his daughter. His ex-wife is there too, Marge. And you know, they're not particularly happy with Nancy for being at that house without the parents there. Parents think Rod did it and that she is hanging out with unsavory types. Nancy's like, no, you don't understand. Tina had this dream. Okay, we were protecting her because of the dream. Turns out that wasn't very helpful, but there's some kinks to work out when you're trying to save people from a guy who stalks you in your dreams. Okay. Next day, we're going to Nancy's house. We're going to get the news is on, talking about this manhunt for Rod. Nancy hasn't slept, but she still wants to go to school anyway. She doesn't want to just sit around at home. Nancy leaves the house and finds out she's being tailed by somebody. There's somebody watching her. And then Rod finds her. He did not notice that Nancy's being tailed, so this wasn't a good move for him. And he's been hiding out. He's like, I didn't touch Tina. There was somebody else there. Nancy doesn't really know what to believe, but there's not really time to pursue this conversation because apparently Nancy was bait and they figured Rod would come look for her. So there's been police ready to swarm Rod now. So he's captured by police. Nancy's like, I feel so used, dead. You used me again, once again with you. So she's going to go to school. We're going to get the teacher there's an English class happening with teachers talking about what is seen is not always what is real. It's a Shakespeare quote. So we're going to get a kid reading from Julius Caesar. They're talking about different Shakespeare works. And Nancy gets sleepy because she's tired and they're reading Shakespeare. And she has a vision of Tina all bloody in a clear body bag. She sees a pool of blood outside the classroom door. And we see all of the kids in the class are now sort of frozen in place. They're just sort of sitting straight up and not moving. So, okay, we're obviously in a dream again. Although I like the fact that the changes are just, you kind of have to look to know, yep, there are just some things in this situation that are a little off. We must be in another dream. So Nancy's going to follow this blood trail. Tina is being pulled down the hallway in a body bag. I mean, when you're seeing the blood trail and Tina being pulled down the hallway in a body bag, that is not a subtle gesture that this is a dream. Now we're very clear on it. She is going to she runs into the hallway and she runs into a hall guard, somebody who's got a shirt on that says hall guard, and it's got that sort of like red and green striped look that reminds us of Freddy. And Nancy keeps running, and the guard's going to call back with Freddy's voice. Hey, Nancy, no running in the hallway. That Freddy. He waves his knives at her. So we're going to get some wind in the hallway. She goes down the stairs. She's calling to Tina. We're getting this sort of like dissonant version of the music we heard from the kids earlier. that nursery rhyme melody kind of gets distorted a lot of times. They play with it a lot of different ways in this movie. It sounds very synthesized as well. So Nancy's going to walk to the boiler room, and Freddie is watching this. We see him peering at. It's a cat and mouse thing for him. He's always looking. I wonder what makes him decide when the right time is to make these kills, because he could do it any time. He just needs to apply himself a little bit more. Okay, so Freddie is going to come out from behind the boiler. He scratches his own stomach just to be creepy, and we're going to see like green pus oozing out and like maggots. So, he's very much not alive. We know that for sure. He's scratching his metal knives on things to make screeching sounds. He reaches for her and she's cornered. Nancy is cornered, but she says, it's only a dream. And she realizes, okay, there's something hot here. She purposely burns her arm on the boiler, and she wakes up screaming in the classroom because of the pain from burning her arm. And she has a real burn on her arm. We're going to find out. Everybody's watching her. She leaves the school. So now Nancy needs to get to the root of what's happening here. So she goes to visit Rod in prison. He's going to explain it all again. He's like, look, somebody was under the covers with us. It was me and Tina and another person. But Rod didn't see him. How could you not see him, Rod? Like, what's the deal? I just couldn't. But he's like, but the thing is, cuts were happening on her body all at once, like 4 razors at a time, cutting her, invisible. And this is making a lot of sense. This is really checking out for Nancy. So Rod explains his own dream about Freddie, and Nancy's very scared by this, and she just leaves. She's like, how could this be? How could the same person be in all of our dreams? So Nancy's going to go home. She needs to relax. It's time for a bubble bath. She is singing Freddie's nursery rhyme, and she dozes off. And we're going to see, of course, one of the just famous images from this film. We've got, from the end of the bathtub, we're looking at Nancy, and her legs are spread to these sides of the bathtub, and we see Freddie's hand come up through the bubble bath water and reaching towards her. But then her mom knocks on the door, and she wakes up, and Freddie's hand goes away. Mom's like, don't fall asleep in there. People die like that. Not what she meant, probably. But Nancy's like, sure. And then she's going to doze off again when her mom goes away. And this time Nancy is pulled under the water, like she's fallen under a bunch of ice. She can sort of see to the surface, but she can't quite get there. She keeps trying to burst to the top. She's screaming. Her mom is coming to the door, trying to open it, and has to pick the lock. Mom's got some skills, all right? For whatever reason, this door was locked. But yeah, she's going to get a hanger. She's going to pick this lock. So Nancy has actually freed herself by the time her mom gets in. She's getting out of the tub. She's like, oh, I just slipped getting out of the tub. Don't you worry about it. Doesn't sound believable, but that's okay. So Nancy is keeping herself awake. She's taking a bottle of pills. She's watching Evil Dead. Glenn comes to her window. He apparently lives across the street, and he came over barefoot as well. Why? He knows that there's a trellis cover with roses. Rose bush? It's not a rose bush. Climbing roses. Those things usually have thorns. No, he knows this about her. He obviously comes and climbs his rose trellis on other occasions to sneak in through her second floor window. So why no shoes? Okay. Especially if having no shoes has been something that's been a signal of being in a dream state. But anyway, so he has climbed this rose trellis. He's checking on her. He heard what happened in English class. I'm sure everybody was talking about this. We know, you're in school. Everybody was talking about this. She has not slept. She's like, see, and I have a burnt arm. Burnt that one in class. She says, okay, well, I don't know. What do you think's happening? Any chance I'm dreaming of the future? Any chance you believe in the boogeyman? Like, what's going on here? He is not fully believing any of this. I'm not convinced he hasn't been having these dreams himself. Glenn, what's your deal? So anyway, The plan is she's going to go back to look for that somebody in her sleep, this Freddy Krueger character who she doesn't have a name for. She just knows what he looks like. So she's going to go back and look for him in her sleep, but she wants Glenn to stand guard. So now it's nighttime. Nancy walks out of her house barefoot. This is a dream, this barefoot moment. She's going to call back to Glenn, who's also outside watching her. She goes to the back of those houses like we've seen before, this sort of location that seems so familiar. Going along the fence, she finds a door with a broken window, and she looks through the broken window and she can see through it to the 5th precinct, which is not possible, right? We should be looking into some sort of a shed, but instead we're seeing through whatever this building would be, and we're seeing across the street to a 5th precinct. And she is going to, it's very foggy here. So much fog in this movie. Definitely creating some atmosphere. She's going to go to the precinct window and she's going to see Rod. And she's going to watch Freddy Krueger walk in to the cell area. He walks through the bars of his cell, and he kind of gives a little nod to Nancy, who's watching. Nancy's trying to shout for Glenn to help and to wake her up in this situation. And she's screaming to Rod, and Freddy's laughing the whole time. Rod wakes up, but still in his dream, so he's not really awake. And we're going to see, she now has a vision of Tina in a body bag. She's got eels and centipedes around her. And then Freddy's going to start chasing Nancy, and she runs slowly. She wants to get back into her house because she's trying to draw him in, and she's trying to fight him, and she's trying to get Glenn to wake her up. So she's running towards her house, and she's running slower and slower and slower. And she gets into the house. She shuts the door. She goes up the stairs, and she's got like melty marshmallow feet in the carpet. Like her feet are sinking through the carpet and the stairs. And Freddy is going to break the window, the front window. This window in the front door is like one of the most broken things in this household. They just keep breaking in this film. He's got this mask on, and he's like, somebody save me, somebody save me. He's like, from Freddy. Yeah, I mean, he's a showman, okay? He show boats for that matter, he just does a lot of showing. So Freddy is a big character, and he's going to have some fun with these things. So Nancy's running away from him. She shuts herself in her room, and Glenn, he's there, but he's asleep. Duh, Glenn, this was not the plan. You were supposed to be standing guard, man. She's like, it's just a dream, but we're going to get a jump scare with him bursting through a mirror, full-length mirror, and he's going to fight her, and she's going to cover her face with a pillow, and he's going to scratch down, he's going to tear it up, and there are going to be feathers flying all over the place. And an alarm clock goes off, and she wakes up, and Glenn wakes up, and she's going to yell at him. Glenn, what are you here for? Glenn, don't you get the urgency of the situation? Please. Her mom's going to hear, and so Glenn needs to leave. He needs to go back out through the window. She takes care of her mom, and then as her mom goes away, Nancy looks and she sees one solitary feather floating. So it was real. And that was the thing that was in the dream, and it is now here in the room. So it gives her an idea when she sees that feather. So Glenn and Nancy are going to go to the precinct because they need to check on Rod after what Nancy just saw. And we're going to see, he's awake for a minute here. We're going to see the sheet around him starts to sort of wind itself up and trail up his body towards his neck. And then it's wrapping itself around his neck, and it's going to slide him across the room and up into the ceiling, and it's going to hang him. And then somewhere in the middle of that, he starts screaming, but he's still asleep. So he can't really do much about it. Meanwhile, we've got Nancy and Glenn trying to convince the police to check on Rod. They're like, he's in imminent danger. You don't understand. But they get to him just a little too late. They do finally run to him, but he's already dead. And that is the end of another teen. So we're going to go to the funeral. And afterwards, Lieutenant Thompson is like, tell me again, Nancy, who you think killed Tina. Walk me through that. She's like, okay, well, so he was burned. He has like a weird hat and a red and green sweater. He's got these he's got these knives for fingers. Does that sound like anybody you know? And her mom is like, ooh, that sounds familiar. So she said, I'm going to get you some help, Nancy. That's what I'm going to do immediately. This seems to have meant something to both of her parents, especially her dad. And her mom's like, nope, just going to help you. Just want to fix the situation. So her mom takes her to the Katya Institute for the study of sleep disorders. And Nancy is like, can't I just take a pill to stop me from dreaming? Wouldn't that help? And the doctor's like, no, you see, that would probably kill you eventually. But he doesn't really know a lot about dreams, if we're being very honest with you. This first film in this series doesn't peddle in the wares of having real factual information about dreams. Okay. That's including at the Katya Institute that she's at right now. They may be studying sleep disorders, but boy, do they have a lot to learn about them. So they're monitoring her and she's going to go to sleep. And the doctor's explaining it all to her mom. It's very interesting. He's like, you see, your dreams are mysteries. They're body hocus pocus. They're body hocus pocus. This is the guy who's supposed to know about dreams. How is she taking him seriously? Adults are so stupid. Anyway, he's like, yeah, so there's basically, we don't know what dreams are or where they come from or why. We know nothing, but we're glad that your daughter's here. We're studying her. Thanks. Oh my goodness, this guy. So her mom and this doctor or this sleep disorder scientist are watching her the wave patterns of her dreams, and he's like, yeah, it's all pretty normal, starting off okay. And then she starts fighting something, and the charts go wild, and she's screaming, and they wake her up. And she wakes up, and she's got this gray streak in her hair for the rest of the film, and a big scratch on her arm, but that's not it. She has Freddie's hat because, like the feather, she was able to pull that into the real world with her. She says, I brought something out of my dream. I grabbed it off his head, and the mom is just stunned. She knows this hat too is the thing. So we're going to go back to Nancy's house. It's daytime. We're going to hear Marge on the phone telling somebody about this dream study. I'm guessing it's Nancy's dad, even though they don't seem to be on particularly good terms, but this is relevant information. And who else would it be? Nancy is going to get more coffee. She hasn't slept, doesn't plan to, doesn't want to. Mom's like, yeah, I threw the hat away. I don't want that in the house, except she really didn't. She just put it in a drawer, and Nancy knows exactly where she put it. Nancy's like, you don't understand. You see, Rod didn't kill Tina. He didn't hang himself. There's a guy that's after us in our dreams. And Mom's like, no. It's all in your head. Mom, come on. What do you need to see here? Nancy pulls the hat from the drawer right behind her mom. She's like, it's got the name Fred Krueger on it. That mean anything? It's one of the biggest laughs of the movie for me. She's like, you say that you don't know who this is? How about the name Fred Krueger? It's monogrammed. Or it's inscribed or whatever. She's like, I beg to differ. Like, we've identified him. I just identified him. Hey, can we get the cops? I've got this is so ridiculous. And so her mom's getting very uncomfortable now. And Nancy's like, oh, I see. Okay. Maybe the best way to deal with this is just to get drunk like you, huh? And her mom slaps her. She says, Fred Krueger can't come after you. He's dead. Oh. She said too much. Nancy says, hold on. You knew about this? You've been acting like I made it up. Nancy's pissed. Nowadays, she'd throw the term gaslighting at her mom and she'd walk right out the door. She's like, don't you be a narcissist on me. Don't you gaslight. But she is really, she's gaslighting her big time because her mom knows all of this. She's, if all of the other, if the perfect spot on description of Fred Krueger didn't do it for her earlier, the actual name in his hat from his very head should have done it. But no, she's not into this. She's still in denial and she's going to deny it to Nancy too. So Nancy's like, I'm out of here. I'm leaving. We're going to see Nancy and Glenn catching up because maybe those two can understand each other. And he's starting to get a little anxious about this. He's seen maybe just a little too much. He's kind of behind the times here, but that's fine. They're walking over a bridge at a duck pond. Glenn's nervous eating. He's going to tell her about a Balinese dream, this Balinese cultural thing about dream skills. He says, well, they get art and literature from dreams, so they try to take the good stuff from dreams. And Nancy's like, well, what if they take something bad, like a monster? And he says, well, what they do is they turn their back on it so they can take its energy away, and it just disappears. I mean, but why? I'm curious. For those of you who have deep dived into this film before, deep dove into this film before, is there a lot of other Balinese imagery in this film, or is this just a throwaway line that they used to do, like to have her do the final kill of Freddy later? Because I don't know, it seems a little bit like a throwaway, but you know, there's a lot that they need to introduce in this first film. I get it. It's okay. Also, Nancy's like, okay, Balinese dream skills are cool. Also, I have a book on booby traps. Okay. I was like, you and your, okay, fine. Nancy goes back to her house. It's getting late. And she's going to notice that, hey, the climbing rose trellis is torn down. Nobody can enter the, not only can nobody climb up to the window, nobody can get into any windows because there are bars on every single window. And she's pretty angry about this. She shouts to her mom. Her mom's smoking in the living room. She's like, it's all about security. Okay. Nancy's like, security from what, mom? Thought you said there was nothing going on. Her mom says, let's come down to the cellar. So she goes down to the furnace where she's been hiding something wrapped up in a rag. It's a bunch of knives, like Freddy Krueger's hand. And she explains the story of Freddy. He's a filthy child murderer who killed over 20 kids. Kids they all knew. Someone didn't sign the search warrant in the right place and he was freed. And a bunch of the parents tracked him down. They found him in an abandoned boiler room where he used to take the kids. They all threw gasoline all over the place, lit it on fire, and watched it all burn. She says, he's dead. Mommy killed him. So this feels like a recent thing. Like, how long ago was this really? Because like mom and the rest of the homeowners association did this. I don't know if it was right before Heather was born, or Nancy was born, or if it was when she was super young. I'm guessing there was a difference of opinion between Marge and Lieutenant Thompson, and maybe they decided that was when they were going to part ways, or mom didn't cope the same way. She coped with alcohol, with substance use. So I don't know. There's a couple factors on timing here that are a little interesting. But mom's gives Nancy the knives all wrapped up. She's like, this is it. This is what's left of Freddy. Like, this is not the thing that's bothering you anymore. It can't be, because he's dead. Like, I get it. You've been escaping this your whole life, and you've been escaping with substances. But there's a heck of a lot of evidence piling up here that he's not actually dead, or something very real is happening to your daughter. Get with the program. Okay, anyway, we're going to see Glenn in his bedroom. He's got headphones on, big headphones, and a TV right next to him. And Nancy's calling him, and they're going to look at each other from their respective windows. It's very like, they can see each other, but they can't get to each other. Nancy hasn't slept for a full 7 days. She's like, 11, you can go 11. Should be okay for a little while longer. Nancy says she knows who the killer is. She now has all this information. She says, here's the thing though, if he gets me, you're next. So just be alert. The plan is Nancy's going to bring this guy out of her dream. She says, I'm going to get a hold of him in my dream. And then Glenn, you're going to wake me up and then you're going to beat him like a bat or something. That's what you'll do. Okay, but whatever you do, don't fall asleep. That's the one thing you can't do. How you'll kill him, you figure that out. Don't fall asleep. Glenn's like, okay, sounds good. And then what does Glenn do? Say it with me, folks. He falls asleep. Yeah, he falls asleep. His mom's going to find him in his room asleep with his headphones on. He's listening to records and he's got the TV on in front of him. And she wakes him up. It's 11:42. She's like, come on, man. Like, just go to bed already. Nancy's mom, meanwhile, wants Nancy to go to bed. She's like, the nightmare's over, honey. It's fine. I showed you the hand. It's good. She's going to just start taking all the mugs and a coffee pot from all over Nancy's room. And she shuts the light and the door. Great. I put my kid to bed. Excellent. Nancy reaches down under her bed. She has an entire other coffee pot that's on and got coffee in it. She pours herself some more. You would definitely smell this. Her mom is asleep at the wheel. Okay. She has alcohol singed like all her entire sense of smell because this mom, okay, Marge, get with the program. Anyway, so Nancy has got another cup of coffee. She's going to change her shirt for whatever reason. She's going to go to her window. She doesn't see Glenn, but she does see Glenn's dad outside in front of his house looking at her room, because that's not weird. And then we're going to find out and see, this is where Glenn's dad becomes a problem. Glenn's dad standing out there. Glenn's mom joins him out there. And Glenn's like, yeah, I think that girl's a lunatic. Yep, don't want her around, Glenn. Nope, not anymore. Never again. I mean, he's looking at the bars on the windows and he's like, these people are weird. So yeah, that's his decision. He's made a final ruling, which once again, a parent makes a decision they think is good parenting, and it turns out to be the absolute worst, most inept thing that you can do. Nancy is going to call over to Glenn's house. She's going to get his mom. And his dad grabs the phone from his mom and hangs it up. He's like, this is how you handle kids. You got to be firm with them. He hangs it up. And then he takes the phone off of the hook so that no calls can be made going into the house. So, hey, for those who don't remember living during this time or didn't live during this time, if you took one phone off the hook, any phones that were connected to the same line couldn't make the call. So just so you know, or they couldn't receive the call for that matter, which is the point that Nancy was trying to make. So, okay, Nancy's phone now rings, and well, we know it's definitely not Glenn's phone, right? Because nobody's making a call from that right now. We're going to hear screeching sound, like knives screeching on glass or something. She's so upset by that. She pulls the whole phone out of the wall. I mean, she unplugs it from the wall. And then she's like, oh man, that was so stupid. Now what if Glenn calls? And then it rings again, but it's not connected to anything. So that's weird. And she's going to answer it. Hello. And she hears Freddie say, I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy. Ugh. And then another famous image, the tongue coming through the receiver. And she's looking down at it like, oh my God. So she is going to, that's not great, right? not the greatest thing. So she throws the phone down. She's stomping on it. She runs downstairs and the door's locked. Her mom has got so many new locks on this door and Nancy can't get out and her mom's drunk. You're going to get some sleep tonight, no matter what. That's her mom's move. So we're going to see what's happening with Glenn now because, you know, if Freddie's saying, I'm your boyfriend now, something's probably about to happen to Glenn. Glenn is asleep in his bed. He's got his headphones on. We're hearing the TV is on and the end of the broadcast is playing. So we're going to hear like probably the national anthem, and that's the series of images that would play at the end of a broadcast loop late at night. So, but it seems like it's a little too early for that, to be honest, because I think it's still 12 something. But anyway, or almost 12. A lot of stuff happens in a very little bit of time here. I feel like they could have stretched this window. But so we're going to see the TV is on his lap as he's sleeping. And then knife hands come up from under the bed and pull him in. They suck Glenn into the bed, into this sort of crater that's now been formed in his mattress. And in the most stunning display of impossible gore, just a fountain of blood is erupting onto the ceiling, and then it spreads out along the ceiling. It's so much blood. The first time I saw this, well, maybe not the first time I saw this. I feel like I saw this when I was a really little kid. But the first time I saw this as an adult and I watched this scene, I laughed so hard because there's no way. It's so much blood. And it's all, I mean, that poor Glenn and his midriff. And now all this blood coming out of it. My goodness. So Glenn's mom is going to come in and she's going to see all of this blood action spurting up. She's screaming, and then emergency services are going to come to the house, and Lieutenant Thompson arrives. Nancy's dad arrives, and Nancy is watching all these people coming to the house from her window. Her dad sees her. She's kind of like, she's crying. Lieutenant Thompson is going to check the house from the inside, and there's just like blood dripping from the ceiling. And Nancy is going to call her dad at Glenn's house. And she's like, I've got a proposition for you. I'm going to catch this guy. I'm going to get him. Just be here in like 20 minutes. His name is Fred Krueger. Only I can get him. He's coming through my dreams. So come here in 20 minutes and break down the door. Yeah, you got that? Her dad sort of agrees, but she's like, yeah, I'm going to go to sleep. And then in 20 minutes, he's like, yeah, go to sleep. Cool. Exactly. That's what I want you to do. Go to sleep. She's like, yeah, but you're going to come in 20 minutes, right? He's like, okay. So flip over your hourglass right now, folks, because in 20 minutes, Nancy has to set up a variety of booby traps around her house, like all over her house. She sets up many booby traps of nature. They were not prefabricated. She is stringing them together right now. 20 minutes. She's going to see her mom off to bed. And she's going to have a heart-to-heart with her mom because her mom's feeling really guilty. And she's like, you know, the thing is, like, you face things. That's your nature. It's your gift. But sometimes you have to turn away. So she has that whole conversation with her mom. Still 20 minutes, folks. Now she's going to go pray. I got at least a minute to spare for praying. And then she's going to go to bed and she's going to set her alarm for 10 minutes. I don't know what universe. First of all, this is clearly a person who's never suffered from insomnia. Granted, it's been 7 days since she slept. So probably when her head hits the pillow, she falls asleep, right? But within 10 minutes, do you start dreaming? I mean, I feel like she's very sure about the timing of all of this. And I have no reason to believe she should be. Because what has she studied? How long has she really been going through all of this? But okay, so she sets the alarm for 10 minutes. And then we're going to see Nancy go down to the basement. Probably a dream. She just goes to the furnace. She gets that wrap that had the knives in it before that her mom showed her, but there are no knives in it now. She hears a screech of the knives. She's going to go down another level to another basement. So that's when you know you have a problem, when the cellar has a cellar. We're hearing Freddie laugh. She goes down a ladder into a boiler room and she's shouting for Freddie. She's calling to him. She's trying to draw him out. We're getting this like tinkly music like we heard the kids singing earlier, but it's just a little off. She finds a crucifix and then we're going to see the knives coming out. Freddie's eye comes from around the corner. He's watching her. He knows she's luring him out. And then she keeps walking. The furnace is on. She's going to find Glenn's bloody headphones in front of it. Poor Glenn. R.I.P. She shouts for Freddie again. And then he comes out for her. It's like, once again, a jump scare, but he just entered the frame, not especially fast. So she runs and she jumps and she's going to land in a very dreamlike way. She goes from being in this furnace room, she jumps to another level and she ends up jumping into her front yard onto that rose trellis. She's trying to look for Freddie now, like in her front yard. She's hoping he came with her. She's trying to bring him closer to her house. And time is ticking down. She's just got seconds before her 10 minutes are supposed to be up and her alarm is going to go off. And there he is. He's finally in the rose trellis. She runs, she jumps at him and she grabs him and she wakes up in her bedroom. She sits up and all is quiet. She's like, oh no, I am imagining all of this. And we sit with it just long enough where you start to exhale. And then bam, Freddie comes from behind her bed. Another little jump scare. She fights him and she starts deploying all of her booby traps one at a time. She is calling, she's trying to slow him down with booby traps, and then she's breaking windows and calling to the cops who were literally just across the street, still investigating this horrific situation with Glenn. They're all right out there, and she's shouting through her house, and who's coming? Nobody. Nobody cares. So protect and serve. Come on, adults. So she runs downstairs. She can't get out of her house. She can't get out of her front door because of all the locks. So she breaks the glass window in the front door. She tries to call out that. Freddie comes out of her bedroom and falls into her sledgehammer trap. There's something like rigged to the ceiling to fall and hit him in his stomach. I mean, it's not a super effective booby trap, but it'll slow him down for a second. But then he has this wild reaction. He actually falls over the banister on the shoddiest looking stairway banister, and he falls down the stairs and lands at her feet. And so now she is gonna sort of lure him into the living room, and he's chasing her. She throws she lures him into the living room, and he's like, I'm gonna split you in two. He's got his knife hands again, and she's got a booby trap in near the living room area that's supposed to set him on fire. So she lights him on fire. He's chasing her up the stairs. He's screaming. She throws him back down because at this point they're in the basement. He's completely on fire. And he's struggling to get upstairs, and he's slowing down, and she's trying to escape him. This makes me think about, so I actually know somebody who's a stunt double or a stunt woman here in the LA area. And one day she was doing a music video where they had to light her on fire. And she was explaining to me that they have a gel that you put all over your body that is supposed to prevent you from catching fire. And as long as you don't, if you even feel a little bit hot, it's not working properly. So you have to stop and reapply. But yeah, she was saying like she actually, her hair got singed because there wasn't enough goo on it. So she lost a little bit of her hair, and it took a little bit of her neck. It hurt her a little bit there. I remember thinking, like, what do you do about your eyeballs? If anybody knows the answer to that, you tell me. But I mean, it's amazing, really. We get a fair amount of time here with Freddie completely consumed in flames. So he is struggling upstairs, and you're just thinking, like, maybe the fire killed him. We thought it killed him before, and he's really struggling to get up the stairs. So maybe that's the end of Freddie. And finally, Lieutenant Thompson, who's been in Glenn's house across the street this whole time, he finally runs out. He's like, wait a minute, there's something happening. And he is now going to see smoke coming out of his daughter and ex-wife's house. And he's calling to all the cops to help him. They break down the door, and Nancy's right on the other side of it. She brings him inside, and she's trying to go point them all down the stairs to check out where Freddie is. But then she notices that there are fiery footsteps leading from the basement to upstairs to the bedrooms. And somehow none of the cops noticed that when they went downstairs. These guys, okay. She is going to go upstairs, and she's going to find Freddie attacking her mom in bed, still completely consumed by fire. And her dad sees this and throws a sheet on top of it all and like smothers the flames. And then when he pulls the sheet back, they're not going to see Freddie, but they're going to see Marge dead in bed. Her mattress is lit blue, and the whole thing is sinking, like she's being lowered, like a coffin is being lowered into her grave. And Marge sinks all the way down and then disappears into a solid mattress. And a cop comes up to get her dad's attention, and Dad's just going to shut the door and hug Nancy. She's like, Dad, just go. Just go. She sends him away. The door's going to shut her in. And she turns her back to the bed, and Freddie is now rising up through the mattress. He's rising up through a sheet on the bed. It starts with his head is all bloody, and then he sort of bursts through the sheet, tears it with his knives, and she knows he's there. And she says, and he says, Freddie, Fred, you think you're gonna get away from me? Not happening. He's stalking her, he's lurking, he's waiting to pounce. And she's like, you know what? I know the secret now. See, this is just a dream. We said that in the beginning. I didn't really believe it, but it's true. It's just a dream. You're not actually alive. She turns to him and she says, I want my mother and my friends again. And Freddie's like, what? That's not how this works. Like, oh, are we taking orders? Come on. Just the sheer question of it is so funny to me. Nancy says, no, Cece, I know now. I take back every bit of energy I gave you. You're nothing. She's going to turn her back to him again. She reaches for the doorknob to get out of the room. He lunges for her and he disappears. Turns out Balinese dream skills, there's a little something to them. Didn't work out for Glenn, but it worked out for Nancy. So now we go to a beautiful, lovely, nice day. And it all seems just a bit too idyllic. The birds are chirping. It's beautiful weather. Nancy comes out. Her mom comes out of the house. No hangover. It's all perfect. Marge comes out of the house alive. It's a little foggy, though, outside. And we get a little joke about, maybe she slept too heavy. Nancy, her friends are going to pull up, and it's Rod and Glenn and Tina, and they're all driving in a car, and it's a convertible with a red and green striped convertible top, like Freddie's sweater. And the top starts to close automatically once Nancy gets inside, and then the windows shut automatically, and Nancy's screaming for her mom, The car drives away. And as the car rolls away, it rolls past some kids jumping rope. And then we're going to see Freddy reach through the window. He's going to once again break the window in the front door, reach out, grab Marge and pull her through the window. And that, my friends, is the last jump scare of the film. I love how, again, it's so many things are disorienting in a way that dreams are just disorienting and we accept it, like the running and you're going too slow, the like no way should Marge be able to fit through the window. Like there are just certain things that don't feel at all likely, that don't feel at all possible, but in the world of a dream do kind of make sense. I feel for me that this is sort of do I want to say best of both worlds? I like the fact that Freddy has a physical form and that he can do more than human things with it. So there's a supernatural element to him, but there's also a physical element to him. And in a way that kind of reminds me a little bit of Art the Clown from Terrifier, which is a movie that we're going to cover pretty soon here in October. So stay tuned for that. But I do like this combination because for me, a lot of times supernatural film, look, horror movies generally don't scare me anyway. I've watched too many for them. Like I'm really desensitized to them. But something about supernatural films, it's like I can't see it, so it doesn't really translate to me on screen as something that should be scary. But with Freddy, you can actually see something to be afraid of, and the idea that then you're running away from something that you can see, but he can pop up right in front of you again somehow it makes it more more dread-filled, because that's not really the word that I was looking for, but that's where I landed. But there's something about that. It's like I can see you and I think I'm doing something to evade you, but in fact, really nothing I can do can evade you. The idea that you can be sort of fooled into thinking there's some way you can protect yourself. Now, I think the coda on the end of this movie is super interesting. Obviously, we are ultimately setting ourselves up for a lot of movies in this franchise. But I think something about this is like, it makes you ask yourself, okay, well, is this the next time that Nancy is asleep? Is none of this been solved at all? What is this waking or dreamlike state that we're in? I'm led to believe that Nancy is alive, but all of the other people that we're seeing here are dead. So she's not in sort of a purgatory with them. Maybe this is a normal dream that she's having, that's Freddy is not involved in. Or maybe when you get to the second film, they pick up right where they leave off. So it's an interesting thing that makes you think. It makes you ask some questions. I'm also very intrigued by the fact that we see this imagery of the girls jumping rope over and over again. We see it more than once in this film. We'll see it in future films as well. They introduce a lot of things that will become staples to this franchise, including the nursery rhyme that we're going to get. The fact that, Freddy is, he speaks and has these one-liners and these cheesy, campy lines that he says that make you laugh. I think the very fact that we can have these completely over-the-top kills and it's not the only film in EEKtober that's got over-the-top kills. Certainly other ones I can think of, including something like Stitches, which is a creepy clown film, but and it's very like a low budget film, but they were very elaborate in how they planned the gore around the kills. This feels like, rather than being elaborate, we're just going to make it big. Like the amount of blood from the Johnny Depp kill is just ludicrous. It's so good. Like yeah, fascinating to me. But I mean, look, that's what I think of A Nightmare on Elm Street. And the question is, what do you think of A Nightmare on Elm Street? Tell me how are you feeling about this film? But beyond that, I have a specific request to make, because I've told you that I'm desensitized to horror movies for the most part. My scary meter is busted. And this is where I need your help. I would love to know how scary you think this film is. How would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 being this is not a scary film, to 10 being this film is so scary. And anything in between is fair game. Let's see where we land. Let's put an average around this. I'm really curious where this particular one lands, because I don't know. It's hard for me to not see this as campy, but maybe it freaks you out. Let's find out. Let's see where you land with this. Next time, it's going to be day 26, and we're going to watch The Exorcist, the 1973 film, supernatural. And of course, I mean, look, it's, again, another iconic film, often referenced. The world of The Exorcist has certainly been built out beyond that one movie as well. So I'm looking forward to getting into that one. I would say the tenor of that film is a bit more serious than this one is. This one is highly unserious at many points. And I can't wait to talk through that one with you. So I hope you'll join me again to watch The Exorcist. And, happy EEKtober, everybody. Get spooky, get donuts.